5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello, Bethany.
Hi, Jeff.
Welcome to the shit show we call a podcast.
You're welcome.
Excited to be here.
How's it going?
It's good. It's my first time.
Yes, we actually have a good time, so you'll definitely enjoy this.
Okay.
So
Fingers crossed.
speak freely and forever hold your peace.
Don't give me too much freedom.
I know. So as people out there in YouTube land knows that Bethany's my buddy. We met at work.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start? No, I started first, right? Then you started.
Yeah, like
a couple
2
days.
weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So we definitely hit it off, and she's been my little buddy since. And now she's on her own, starting her own business. So I'm very proud of her. Mm-hmm. And so tell the world what you're doing and who you are.
So I am the owner-operator of Key Beauty. And basically, through my experience, I have a degree in beauty marketing and merchandising. And through my experience working with really large global beauty brands, but really honing in working with small businesses, the first thing that I hear, or the thing I hear the most, is that they lack time. They're business owners. They do everything. But they also can learn, and they can go to courses, and they can have a coach come in, and they can have the information, but that doesn't mean they have the time to do it. Mm-hmm. And so hearing that pain point over and over and over again, I really wanted to bring some value to them. So I am an outsourcing service for salons and spas, and I handle mostly digital marketing. It's a niche that I'm very strong in my experience. But I also handle things that they don't even realize, but if they do have the option to have it tightened up, whether that's their website, their scripting, I am working on a recruiting network. I've done recruiting in my past, doing those first rounds of interviews because I know the account so intimately. I know who'll be a fit and who won't be. Mm-hmm. And rather than, a very seasoned salon owner and a service provider taking 2 hours off the books and losing $500 to $1,000 in service dollars to be stood up by first round interviews, they stand me up. Mm-hmm. And I'm a lot cheaper. So
it doesn't sting as much.
That's right. Exactly. So, it's just, I really feel like it's something that's missing because there are similar services out there, but not drilled down to this niche. And luckily I have the relationships and the trust with my accounts that they feel comfortable. They know that I have their best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really glad to be partnering with them in a new way.
Yeah. I think it's right. Like time is definitely not on anybody's side really.
Right.
And even for me, like time, like today, it was so busy. Mm-hmm. And then I had to come home, get mm-hmm. ready. If I could find somebody to help me with the podcast, that was like I would just love to give somebody the editing and be like, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Give it to me back on Monday. But the problem is we don't have that option right now. Just like I would imagine a salon probably or a whatever, spa or whatever, those people are usually working there. So there's not a lot of spare time.
Correct.
So that's a very interesting niche that you went after.
They have to wear every hat.
Yeah.
They have to be the bookkeeper. They have to be the HR. They have to be a service provider. They have to be everything. And then also, they have a life.
Right.
So if they're like, when I leave after a 10-hour day, I want to go home to my family. I don't want to go home and be on my phone trying to figure out how to best market my brand, because every salon is a brand. It's a new experience.
Yeah.
So I own a small business.
Yeah.
With my wife, and to give you an example, a real world example of not having time, and I'm sure it's something like you here, but so 6 years ago we bought out a local competitor and we took over their storefront. Mm-hmm. And what I had said is because we were also inheriting their book of business. Because we were both the same type of business, is that I wanted to leave their signage up for like a year, mm-hmm. so people got used to us, and so in the case they had brand recognition, we started co-branding things, to kind of adapt people to our brand, and then I'm like, we'll redesign the signs outside, and we'll we'll rebrand the whole store, under new management type thing.
Yep.
So that would have been 5 years ago, and we still have the old signs.
Do you really?
Because we don't have the time. I mean, if we're going to bullet point priorities, obviously anything client related is first and foremost, and then employees or vice versa, because they're both just as important.
Right.
But then, that punch list never ends. And even if it's 2 hours of actually designing the sign, and design is a good part of what, my wife does. She designs shirts and stuff, for people, or at least, customizes, the idea that they might come through with. And we have not had the time. I mean, sure, yeah, if we want to fire up a laptop on a Saturday night,
Sure.
we could, but, we do draw those lines. And I mean, yeah, I could get home tonight and do it. But I do want to also have a life and enjoy the time with my kids. So yeah, that's like a real world example. And if we're lucky, every once in a while, we'll snap a picture, put it up on social media, like, hey, this is what we're doing. But that's all. And it's like, what if it does really well, and then we get more business, and then we're, all good things, but the timing, on like the whole snowball thing, just scaling up is difficult, so like I don't want to have too much of a social media presence in case our business gets ahead of how we're scaling, the production side. It's all real
balance.
Yeah. So I mean, finding that's an incredibly valuable thing to say, here, you handle this. And if it's like, throttle up, throttle down, let's go real heavy on pushing this brand out there, to have someone where I could just call them and say, yeah, I want to go, this direction. I would love that. So if you get into like, screen printing and embroidery,
Small business marketing.
Now, are you willing to branch out and do other things? Just like that for other companies?
Yes. Right now, I want to stick where my network is and what I'm good at. But I also have a real estate license. I've done copywriting for real estate before. So I think that, marketing and kind of understanding a consumer it doesn't vary a whole ton, but I've had enough experience in the beauty industry with small businesses that right now I think that's where I'll thrive. And it's needed. So maybe once I have, an intern, we can expand. But, we're on a podcast, but podcasts that I listen to when we're talking about, women always get asked how you do it all. But women millionaires, they always say, what's the first piece of advice you can give someone? They said, outsource everything.
Really? Get
your groceries delivered. Take it off your plate. Get a laundry service. Get it off your plate. Because how much is your free time worth?
I'll tell you that is the perfect. So just for the groceries, once Walmart started delivering groceries, I was like, okay, guess what? We're not doing anymore.
Exactly.
But it was like that. You fight through the how much it's going to cost you, right? So it was like $100.
$100, yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I don't want to pay $100.
Unlimited deliveries, 7 days a week.
So my wife looked at me. She goes, "Listen, moron, let's do some math." And she goes, "This is the time it's taking you to take me to the grocery store, and for $99, break it down, unlimited per week." And it was like pennies. I'm like, okay, absolutely. Excuse me. So I think that's when you go in there with that. What does that time cost you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Break it down, and this is where I can come in and do that for far cheaper, but get you some great results.
Right.
That's where the benefit comes from. It's your why, so.
And in a lot of cases, you're hiring someone that's going to be better at it than you are anyway.
Right.
That's what both fields, marketing and being a hairstylist, they're both very creative outlets, but they're very different. You keep doing what you love and what you're good at, and let me do what I'm good at, so your business can thrive. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're both very aesthetic businesses. So I think a lot of salons, they forget that their Instagram's their calling card, but they run an aesthetic business.
Right.
They're literally driven by people who want to look their best most of the time.
Sure.
Most of the time. So you need your photo book to attract your ideal client. Someone that wants to come in and have those services and have that result. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the time to show it, you're only going to be getting the same people and as we learn, people die and they move. You always need new clients.
Right.
And you're not going to get them unless you are showing what you can do. Because
Right.
where is the trust? They don't know what they're going to get.
And I have friends that work at salons, so like they post up the work they do, and I'm like, man, if I had long hair, like,
Right.
I'd be going to the salon, like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is, I mean, that's like, it's an eye-catching thing if it's done correctly. Now, obviously, part of it's photos, and then obviously editing and filtering photos, and then timing it, and making sure that you're targeting your audience if you're, depending how you're putting it out there. But I stop and look at it all the time, like, damn, like this is what they're doing with long hair these days.
And you just need to be top of mind.
Yeah. I was telling somebody about when I first got my first apartment, right? And I had to open up a phone book. Was it Carlos that said it last week? Yeah. I think he said about the phone book. And he's like, we're old when you mentioned the word phone book, right? But this is what this generation, in the next generation, this is what they're going to do. Everything revolves around, and it might be the next Instagram or the next Facebook. Those things will always evolve, but the process, I think, will still be pretty much the same. And, I mean, could you imagine back in the day where, where do I go get my car fixed? Say there was no Yelp. There was no, we went in the newspaper.
It was a phone
Yellow
book, or
Pages.
you like ask somebody you knew,
Yeah.
like, hey, I got this problem with my car. Where would you bring it? And
Right.
then it was almost all word of mouth, or phone book. Or,
Yeah.
It used to be you ask for a phone number, look it up. Now it's Google it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you have that friend, you say to him, like, I got to get my car fixed. And the guy goes, oh, yeah, go see my buddy John. And John turns out to be a knucklehead. Then you're like, dude, thanks.
Yeah.
He's like, well, don't ever listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But now you can go on social media and actually see the finished product of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
and everybody wants to rate people, especially if it was a bad experience. Like there's the detractors are the first people to, get it out there and say, hey, this was a horrible experience. So that, that's all there.
yeah.
It's a very powerful tool, but it's constantly evolving, just as we just talked about, based on technology. And, that's another important part of marketing, I imagine, is, finding where the audience is and where they're going next.
Right.
So you can get ahead of it,
Right.
get those get that organic reach, the unsponsored reach where it's less money, but it's still really, I mean, TikTok was a great example over the last probably year and a half where, they were still figuring out what they were doing. So you could get a lot of exposure if done correctly for free.
Right.
Whereas like now Facebook, Instagram, like you're paying through the nose to try to get,
Right.
a little bit of interaction.
Yeah.
I can't do a TikTok. I did download it, but with Instagram Reels, I don't need it anymore. It's on like my third swipe of apps.
Yep.
I can't do it. It will eat up all your time. I'm telling you, it really will.
Well,
You-
TikTok in general has eaten up a lot of my nightly time where I actually will go to bed at a certain time just so I have enough time to play on TikTok.
Yeah,
It's so wrong.
It's definitely a wormhole. Like it's crazy how quickly 30-second and 60-second clips can eat up an hour. When you do the math, it's like, oh yeah, I'm only watching 30-second videos. Yeah, no, you just watched 100 of them.
Yeah.
But I just like everything else, I try to do it in moderation. I do promote my son's business. You'll hear it later, but he's like I wouldn't call him a TikTok sensation, but he's got
doing-
like
knocking it out of the park.
he's got like 20-something thousand followers, which I think is pretty damn good, and I look forward to his videos. So like I have TikTok just so I can go and then like share and like and help with the algorithm, that interaction. But then I'll spend 15 minutes and I'll blink and I'm like, oh shit, that was 15 minutes. Like I came here to watch a 30-second video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a oof.
But that's how you support a small business. You like and you
Yeah.
engage with their content. I think people kind of forget because we just mindlessly scroll now. But if your friend has a service that you want to utilize, you know what you do instead? You just engage with their content, and then it gets in front of the eyes of your friends. That's free.
Well,
And it takes about 30 seconds.
Absolutely. And that's one of the struggles of the podcast is I think will be our 32nd podcast.
You told me I was 33.
Oh, 33.
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
think 32
My
was the
bad.
other day because 31 was last week. We just talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh no, you're 34 then
Ooh.
because we did Monday was Carlos. That was 32. Oh, you're 33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did we do another one in the middle? Like,
Oh
Count.
wait, 31 was last week.
So we haven't done the one that me and you did. Plus there's Carlos. So it's 31.
No,
you and I were 32. Carlos was 33. You are 34.
Oh wait, so when
I
we
still have one in the tank.
when we sat down last week, that was doing number 32. I thought we were doing number 31 last week. Is my phone vibrating?
No. So when you and I wore pink.
Oh, that was a couple times ago, wasn't it? Or, no, we missed a week. The week.
So we do have one in the tank. So you are 34.
All right.
Congratulations.
I'll
You just
take it.
moved up a notch. But one of the problems of the podcast is not a problem. It is what it is. But I always ask, please just share it. Like if I have 1,000 or 1,200 friends, something like that. Mm-hmm. If you could just share it to one person on your page and ask them to share it, just imagine what we could do. So I don't want anybody to buy anything. I don't, eventually though we are going to do t-shirts because Brett does. And then check it out. My wife brought it up to me. So under your water right there, there's a coaster. So we're going to start doing more stuff like that. And that took like no time to put together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and it'll help the podcast. It'll get the word out there. Brett's going to do stickers.
Yeah, we can do stickers. I can do like the cardboard coasters.
Yep.
Like the inexpensive, like cork type, not cork, but like you would get at a bar with a beer label on.
Well, Jeff, if you need someone to help you with your social media.
And you might know someone that might know.
You know what?
But I don't know your degree. Did you say your degree was in beauty marketing? That's
so
that's a thing. I mean, I know marketing, but I didn't realize it gets drilled down that far.
My undergrad was in communications and media studies. Went to Northeastern. I came out. I finished young. I finished early. And I came out, and you come out with a communications degree, and you're like, okay, what? What?
Start communicating.
Start communicating.
Yeah, I can write a mean 5-paragraph essay, and I can't watch television without feeling like they're sending me a subliminal message. Like, these are what I get from college, right? My private education.
They are.
So I did several years in recruiting and tech sales, and I hated it. I hated sitting at a desk for 8 hours. I'm a work smarter, not hard. Work smarter, not harder kind of person. And it's like, if I had it done, and I always try to find the most efficient way to do things. If I'm done and I have to sit until 5 o'clock just to what?
Yeah.
To satisfy someone in the the see-through office on the corner while I'm sitting at my cubicle, no, thank you. And I was making great money, so I had been doing like a little bit of makeup on the side, mostly for people who don't actually know how to do makeup. So anything I did to them made them look great because they're like, wow, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I by no means am a professional makeup artist, but I do just good enough, right?
So could you do something with this mess?
No, I'm sorry. You're lost.
Damn it. I knew it. Can't win,
kidding.
Brett.
I could contour
Can't
you.
win.
I give you a mean contour. And I do have a very creative side to me. And I owned a condo at the time. I was single owning this home. And so it kind of shackled me. I didn't really have a lot of choice. I had to, bills, right? Sure. My parents said to me, if you want to go to hair school, you could rent your condo and stay with us. I was in my mid-20s, 25. I said, tempting, but I love my parents, but I think that there's a price for independence,
sure,
right? So
absolutely.
I knew I didn't want to do that. So I started looking into one day, particularly mind-numbing day at the office. I started looking into something that I could put on top of my degree since I already, am paying this degree till I'm 60. How can I work it together? There's 2 programs that really offer any sort of like in the beauty industry, or I'm not the most fashionable, as you can tell. I can get by, but it's not really my thing.
Actually, you do pretty good.
Thank you.
I've
That's
seen
nice
you
of
all
you.
dolled up, and I got to tell you, you clean up pretty good.
Thanks. I appreciate it. But it's not
Black on black.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It always works.
Yeah, black sweatshirt, black pants.
Well, if Matt was here, he'd say it was perfect. He always says, wear black on the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to look thin, So, and there's 2 programs, one in New York and one in LA. And I knew that at the time I wanted to change my life. I said, if I go to New York, I'll be home every other weekend. And I don't like New York, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't like people always touching me. It's like in my space all the time. And it's not for me. So I said, all right, I'm doing it. Like, I'm going to move to California. And going to school was kind of the motivator, I guess. The thing to say, why are you going? Oh, I'm not going because I'm having a 25-year-old crisis. I'm going because I'm going to school.
Yeah, everything's acceptable when you're saying you're going for school. Like,
right.
Why are you going to Minnesota?
You can sell your home and move away. It's just, yes.
Like, screw this, I'm going to Ohio.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You're going to Nebraska? I'm going to school.
Yeah.
Oh,
total sense, yeah. So, and it was a year program. It was called a professional designation. They basically say to the people that already have their bachelor's, it's a master's equivalent program because it just drills in kind of more niche. I always felt like when I came out of college, I felt like I didn't have any specific knowledge or specific skill.
Right.
I wanted to be in broadcasting, but in a communications degree. There's no broadcasting degree. There's a journalism degree.
Right.
But they don't require you to take like an editing class. So I had to pick an elective and learn how to edit.
Right.
I didn't have any tangible skills that I could say, I know how to do this because of my degree. Mm-hmm. Teachers come out, they have a framework of how to be a teacher. They know how to, as far as, I know.
Yeah, there's a little bit of structure.
They have a little bit of structure, and they can come out and say, okay, I know how to go into the teaching profession and be successful.
I think other than that, is there any other
nurses?
Nurses, yeah, I guess there's a lot of there's a lot of practical work,
right?
So like,
accounting,
nurses like because you have that kind of internship type thing where like you have to go and get practical knowledge.
Right.
No one else does that like cooperative kind of education where it's like go spend some time in the field and get credit for it, or don't even get credit for it.
That was great about Northeastern.
Like a residency, like doctors have to do.
Oh Jesus!
There we go.
I can't believe I did that. So we're gonna.
I remember my first podcast.
We're gonna deal with that right now. That won't let me shut it off. Look at that. There we go.
Yeah,
that's because your phone's on.
I think that's like the general consensus, though. Is like people, even if you get something like you go to school, and I tried going to school several times. I'm not very. I can read one page at a time, and then I have to take a week off. That I think that's what I hear most from friends and family and people I know. It's like. Even in the instance where you get the degree for exactly what you want to do and you get the job in the exact field, it's like you show up and you're like, I have no freaking idea what I'm doing.
Right.
Like I could pass a test on this right now, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do like for my job.
Well, I just got my real estate license, so I passed the test.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to do it.
I was kind of thinking about doing that. Like
It's 40 hours. I have a lot of great knowledge, but it's how do I put that into practice?
40 hours of training in total, right?
And then you take the test, And now I'm in training I'm working with Keller Williams, and luckily they kind of frame that, but not all real estate offices do that,
right?
Because you're a 1099, so they don't have to do that for you.
Sink or swim,
right?
Yeah. It would behoove them to.
Well, yeah, you'd think.
You know what I mean? To make sure that you were a little up to speed.
Right.
So,
But that was a priority when I decided who I was going to work with. I'm like, okay, how are you going to help me figure this out?
Yeah.
Because I watch $1 Million Listing like nobody's business, but I don't, I'm not going to get that. So it's really interesting. I went to college with that broad degree because I wanted to have options when I came out. But then I came out and I'm like, I have no idea where to go. I
have no options.
Well, here's the problem. They talk about college a lot now, where especially people who go just a broad thing,
business.
What are you gonna,
communications.
Yeah, and some of those things can give you a little bit like when I ran my businesses. I didn't own my own business, but I ran other people's businesses. That's where I got my on hands, and I learned very quickly. Like when your boss came to you with your P&L and he slapped it down in front of you and please explain this, you're like,
right.
You learn real quick how to,
That's
okay, what does this mean?
Degree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you learn math real quick because, how many days before I get fired from this P&L,
Yep.
So, but in college, I wouldn't have been good at college. Mm-hmm. Although I did good in high school only because I stayed back in 8th grade and the 4th grade. But that was different because I had a medical condition. Just want to throw it out there. Okay. The second one is I was just an a-hole. So, but when I got into high school, I'm like, man, I really got to do better. Like because my mom wanted 2 things: graduate high school and don't get anybody pregnant. I got out of high school, 2 weeks out of high school, I got my girlfriend pregnant. So, it was.
Oh, I thought she was pregnant before.
Well, no, she was, but 2 weeks after school is when we found out that she was actually pregnant.
For some reason, I thought you even had.
So you got like an A- on the goals, just not an A+.
Yeah, like I was in the ballpark.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Close. Yeah, it was close.
Yeah. So, but then I had to be, because I didn't have a college background, I had to really become like better than the next person at work, because that person was going to outsmart me with a degree. Mm-hmm. Like even during the interview process, I can remember being in interviews where they'd be like, you don't have a degree. And I'm like, okay, so tell me why that would not let me or negate me from getting this job. Well, we're looking for somebody with a degree. So my comeback used to always be like, okay, that's fair, I guess, if that's what you're looking for. But I will tell you this. I know what it's like to work 16 hours a day. I know what it's like to work 15 days straight, 30 days straight. I know what goals and objectives are. So I'll tell you what, if you have to hire this other person, I guess that's what you have to do. But what I'm telling you is you're going to be calling me in 30 days because they didn't work out. Because based on what you're telling me this job entails, I got a pretty good idea you're gonna call me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then, and it was a struggle because as you get promoted, the same things would come up again. Jeff, we want to promote you, but we don't have a degree.
Yeah, and a lot of like companies, I remember like Target calling me to recruit me a couple times, when I was doing a retail management thing. And they'll be like, oh, what was your highest level of school? And I tell them, well, I have, some college. And I'm like, oh, sorry, our store managers, it's a requirement. It's a company requirement.
You need a college degree to be a
store manager or Target.
Yeah.
That may have changed.
Right.
This is, a bunch of years ago now, probably close to 10 years. But I used to, you'd get cold calls. They would just call and ask to speak to the store manager. And it happened to every retailer I ever worked at. And they would say, oh, this is so-and-so, a recruiter at X retailer, and Target, and there was at least one other, where they said, oh, sorry for wasting your time. We have a requirement that, and some was a 2-year degree, some was a 4-year degree, but they wanted to see. And really, I kind of get it. So historically, what a degree really indicated, regardless of what it was in, because even the field didn't matter so much. It was just an important factor. It was something nice to put on your resume because it showed that you could stick with something that really sucked for 2 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest difference between high school and college. I mean, if you look at it from, a management perspective, so high school, you're kind of forced to do it. You really can't decide to do it on your own until a certain age. And then that's if your parents let you. If you're still living under their roof, usually it's not an option. So let's just call high school non-optional. Like the amount of people that choose not to do it is much, much less on a percentage basis to the people that do, or that graduate or at least see it through. College is the first time where you're kind of on your own. Sure, some people still have their parents involved and are pushing them through that process. But for the most part, it's you have to get up. You have your school, your classes, your schedules are all over the place. This is your first real, true world experience of self-management.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And being committed to something that you don't get the end you don't exactly know what the end result will be.
And it sucks because nobody liked the last 12 years. Who says I'm going to like the next 4 years?
And you got to pay a lot to do it.
Oh, so now I'm paying to do something I hated that I got for free the last 12 years.
Right.
Yeah. So now if you think about everything that's in, it's not about the degree. It's about everything that goes into the degree is like your evolution as a human and into like the adult world. I get it, but to your point, I mean, I fought the same battles.
Yeah.
So like now I see the other side where I'm just like, okay, I've been in the trenches, and that's how I got out of retail is by saying, I just dealt with this shit for the last 15 years.
Right. And
I just started going into my other interviews, going into different industries saying I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that this job that I'm applying for can throw something at me that I haven't seen in when was the last time someone shit on the floor in this place? Okay. Yeah. Because I had
How
that.
many times do we have to deal with that?
gross.
Yeah.
So it's like, go ahead. I mean, that's how I got I got into an industry where I had zero, I can't say business being in, but no experience other than I know that it existed.
Yeah.
And then so I'm in the financial industry and I at 40 something years old, I had to commit to passing like all these, licenses exams, all the ones that like you see about on TV, the Series 7, which everybody hears about. And then I have 4 others after that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can pass all those in the next year. Absolutely. Yeah. This old brain still works. And,
oh my God, it's hard.
And I did it, and I surprised the shit out of myself, but I at one point they're just like, like you're only here because we really need to hire people. Like, I don't know why you're here. Like we don't, this is one person. It was a dual interview, and it wasn't at that, that abrupt and curt, but, they did say, like, if it wasn't for the fact that we took the filters off, you wouldn't be sitting in front of me. And at that point, like, an interview went south, and the guy's like, tell me why I should hire you. He's like, I don't know why. And I was just like, well, actually, I take it back. He worded it a little different because it sounds real bad. And he's actually a really nice guy. What he did say, he's just like, all right. He's like, when you first got here, he's like, I just figured you were here because, we kind of opened the floodgates and we released some filters on, on the screening, and we wanted to see what would come through. And I thought I was wasting my time. He's like, then we talked for a little while, and I'm starting to see some things that I like. He's like, what I really wish is that I could find another department to hire you. You could get some experience in this industry, and then I can steal you in like a year or two because I know you'll be valuable.
So take me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So luckily, the reason for the interview was like the team that I'm actually still on it was being split in two because its needs increased. And the one person who was taking over the new team was there, and the one person who was taking continuing on with the old team, and they were kind of going to pick and choose who they hired and who they kept and everything like that. So the other manager, who's my current boss, saw, some things. And when this guy's like, he's like, just tell me I should hire you. He's like, kind of like, and I flat out said, I'm like, cause I can do anything. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look at my resume. I'm like, I went from, warehouse worker to store manager in 2 years. I'm like, and then, I saw the writing on the wall where I was at, and that the retailer didn't have, its shit together. So I went from consumer electronics to sporting goods. By the way, I don't even like sports.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and then I didn't like the way the retailer was going, and I decided I didn't want retail anymore. So I got into banking, and I became a branch manager because I decided I could. I'm like, and now I'm here, and I'm like, you tell me I need to take some tests, I'll take some tests. I'm like, because while all this was happening, like after I left the sporting goods retailer, I also went and sold Mercedes-Benz for 6 months and got tired of that, and I started my own business, and I'm still running that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can do anything, and like, because at that point, I don't usually like being that cocky, like that's not my thing. But I thought, like, I was just kind of grasping at straws, and I was like, well, F this. Like, this could go one of two ways. I can either, kind of do that.
That's yours. He puts it on the floor.
I thought I turned it off. I don't know.
He makes me laugh every time. I swear to God.
But yeah, so I was like, well, at this point, I thought I had wasted everybody's time. So I was like, well, I'm just going to put it all out there. And if you don't like it, then, I don't think the outcome changed. Yeah. And like a couple of days later, they call me back and they're like, oh, we want to do a second interview. I'm like, seriously? But that's exactly it. Like, there's that weird thing where, sometimes you got to do exactly what you were talking about doing, what I did, to get over that degree hump. And some people just have that freaking requirement. Yeah. And I do get it. I get it. But, at some point it's a seesaw.
Yeah. 2 points. One is, I think it's funny when you're saying about this interview, I think that your life changes when you start realizing that you bring value into anything that you do. So if it's an interview or dating, you're going in being like, I know that I'm an asset to you, but let me make sure that you fit for me. Right. I think, I'm 31. I still have some friends that are unattached, and they're like, well, I want to go out and make sure that he likes me. It's like, wait a second. You got this far, and you're doing great. Y'all live on your own. You pay your own bills. Why don't you just make sure that, like, that's a person that you actually want to spend your time with, and let that, like, they should prove themselves to you. Why are you proving yourself to them? Yeah. Like, hello? Like, we populate the earth. Sorry, guys, but, like, it's true.
It should be a mutual proving ground. Like, exactly. I mean, it definitely shouldn't be like, you should definitely not feel like you have to, at least especially in that situation, we're talking about, your potential looking at like the rest of your life.
Correct.
Sleeping next to each other.
Yeah.
You should
it's a mindset shift.
You shouldn't be like, I have to prove myself.
When the wife comes home, maybe I should just tell her she's just not cutting it anymore. And
All right, well,
should
should
I not do that?
Example back to
Okay.
interviews. When you go to a job,
listen, I've been thinking, and I think we need to readjust our priorities, and I think you have to prove some things.
you have to prove yourself.
I think,
but
you
I mean,
should go live
desperation
down
has
the
a
street.
stink.
Yeah.
So whether you're going into an interview or going into a date, I guess this was a bad analogy for you too. But you go into an interview and desperation has a stink. If you go in and you're like, I'm here just because I need a job, so please hire me, I swear. It's like, no, I want to make sure that this job also works for me and will help me grow. And I think they respect that. Like, they respect that confidence that you brought in. Like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to do, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, and I'm always, and I think that was probably what really triggered me is like, I'm always confident in my interviews. I know what I'm capable of, but that was the first time where I've ever been told like,
You got challenged in that way.
I felt like they made me feel like at least this one person made me feel like I was wasting their time. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. And like, I haven't failed at anything I've done.
Yeah.
And I'm, halfway through my life, I was actually on the defense hardcore. Like, I feel like I'm being attacked. Let me tell you how it is, and it worked out, even though I was, I might have been more forward than I ever would have been in an interview. But at that point, it was really just like, well, it was going to be like a mic drop situation,
Right.
honestly.
Right, yeah.
Well, I'm here, so
Yeah.
they're going to, I might as well.
I mean, I got to tell you something. You having enough guts to start your own gig. I've always wanted to do it. And like I said, I've ran multi-million-dollar companies and been very good at it. But crossing that line or jumping over that line and saying, okay, now I'm going to just throw it all out there, start my own thing, be vulnerable again. Like, I guess the best analogy too is what I did before work, what I do now. I didn't know anything about this business whatsoever. And when someone called me and said, hey, I got an opportunity for you, I'm like, come on, man, this is totally out of my realm. But I let the other company just drill me for 13 years. And I can't say all 13 years were bad because it wasn't, but kind of violate my my self-worth. And then I finally said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go try something else. And it was that fear. So it was the fear that we knew we had to fly all the time. That I was going to be, was somebody going to take me seriously because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I led into it with a business mindset. And then that's how my transition was a little bit easier. And I learned all the other stuff as time went on. And, we did our trainings together and stuff. And I learned a valuable lesson that time was I can do anything I put my mind to it. And if I go do something else down the road, I'm going to be just as good as that as I am with this and my previous. So it was a great learning tool for me. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, the first time we had to fly, I would go in the bathroom and throw up because I just couldn't fly. And I finally said to myself, listen, dude, you got to put one foot in front of the other, go down that gangplank, get in the plane, sit down, and then you'll be at your destination.
I remember when you and I had to go to New Jersey. It's a 1-hour flight, Boston to
I drove.
Flight. You drove 7 hours. And then you got stuck in traffic.
I got
on
stuck
the way
in traffic.
Home.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm already home and in bed, so sorry.
Not only did I get stuck in traffic, I got whaled in traffic, man. Like it was, I got stuck
It
over
was
the
like
George.
9 hours
yeah,
or something.
George
wasn't it?
Washington
So at
Bridge
least
was
they
locked up.
offered you a flight. Like, we used to have regional meetings for a few different retailers down in New Jersey because it was central to the Northeast. Well, central to where the Northeast offices were. And it wasn't an option. It was like, oh, you can drive and maybe we'll pay you mileage or, we'll,
in the beginning, I feel like they shelled out a lot in this training, and you were like I
Boston
am
and New Jersey.
the king shit,
Yep.
Quickly, I think that changed, but but to your point, like when I was sitting and feeling like my employer was no longer valuing what I brought to the table, I had to sit down and say, what's my time worth? Just like I'm saying to my salon owners that I'm working with, what's your time worth? I had to say it to myself too. And you write down what you're good at, and you write down who you want to work with. And what I always fell back on is like, I always do the right thing. I will think outside the box to find you a solution. And your trust is safe with me. And I think that it was scary to decide to do it. And, but I've always wanted to know, and I knew that if I took another corporate role and let a company decide what I was worth, I would always wonder if I could have done it on my own. And so I just said, this is the time to try. I don't have any children. I'm getting married next year. If I don't do it now, I will always find a reason not to do it.
Right.
I will say, oh, I'm having kids. I really need the safety net.
Right.
Or, I mean, it's not great when you're saving for a wedding to go and, become self-employed. But still, this is the time. If I don't do it now, I will always wonder what if. So let's do it, And luckily I have a partner who's very supportive, and I understand that privilege of having that. My dad is a CPA. Not everybody has those kind of tools to help them make sure that they're off on the right foot.
Right.
And I acknowledge that I have those things, and I would not have been able to do this maybe 2 years ago because I did not have a partner who would support me, and not financially. I pay my own way. Believe me, every contractor I bring in, I said, I finally have paid rent. Great. But a lot of things go into it, and it just, the stars aligned and I had to jump.
Right.
It's not the same. I hope that I continue to fly, but you just have to. I could no longer put my value in other people's hands because I always have felt a little misunderstood and always undervalued.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do the right thing and be a team player and be a company gal, but I mean, I need to eat.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Now I go and kill for my food.
Yeah. So. How's it been with the all the salons you're going to? How's it been the reception?
I think before I decided to do it, just asking for feedback, I was hearing that's exactly what I need.
Right.
It does change a little bit when you're asking them to kind of create a budget for what they can afford. Mm-hmm. Because times are tight. We just have gone through COVID. Right. And so I know that it will be an uphill battle working with people that don't know me personally, because they don't know that I'll do whatever it takes to honor my word, honor our contract, things like that. But the reception has been because I am flexible in what they need to get done. Obviously, my scope of experience, my scope of work is central to how I market myself.
Sure.
But listening to them and hearing what they need and being amenable to that, I think has really been helpful. Right. The reception has been great. This is what we need. I will find things that I need done, and I want to keep you as part of my team.
Right.
So it's been good so far.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And it's only a matter of time before you work with the people who kind of are giving you that first stab at it, and then other places start to see what you're doing.
Exactly.
And assuming you're doing it right, both word of mouth and just
this will be a referral business, 100%.
And just that presence, because it's next thing you know, so you're working with a salon, and a salon down the road starts getting flooded with different things, and they're impressed by what's happening over there. Then you walk in their door, and it's just like, oh, if you didn't know, I do this for so and so, I can do it for you. And I mean that's that's another thing of the beauty of especially digital marketing. It's instant,
Correct.
and it's all, I mean, if you have a salon owner, I guarantee everything they see, whether they want to or not, in any form, in the digital realm, is salon related, because everything they're looking at on their phone, which is stored, and you've given permission for everybody to see it, at least in the in the app sense. That's all you're getting. So it's just like, oh shit, who's doing the stuff for so and so down the street? Mine looks like garbage now. Right. And then you walk in a month later, and it's like, oh yeah, I started doing this, and I do it for so and so. They already know that something changed.
Yep.
Right. I always knew that one would beget the next. It would be a slow start, and then it would just keep going. It hasn't been as slow as I thought it was going to be to start, so that's positive.
Sure.
And I just hope that the momentum keeps growing. But 100%, you have to give good work if you want this. If I don't want this to end after my 3-month contracts,
it doesn't stop. Just so you know, it doesn't stop.
Good.
And I'm in it's a different business, but we're kind of technical. I'm technically kind of in the marketing business because we print stuff that people wear, and that's marketing. And so I can tell you that with a $0 advertising budget, after the first year, and I had some equipment commitments where I had to, and I did not go small when I went. I paid myself back plus some the first year. So I was at, zero net cost. Actually, I was in the positive. So I was in the green first year. And then I doubled year over year revenue for 6 years.
Yep.
And it's plateaued, and it's mainly plateaued over the last 4 years. Not plateaued, it's still growing, but not at that rate.
Right.
Mainly because we've kind of scaled it, and we've continued. We're literally
kind of control that increase.
Yeah, because again, it's scalability and
production.
Right.
And production, and I still help. I'm removed. I started the thing in my garage, and I was like the primary for the first 4 years, and then my wife took over, and it was fortuitous or serendipitous even that she actually got laid off and had time to go to school for graphic design, and which contributed to the business. And then just as that was ending, the business that we bought out went up for sale, and all that. So it was right around that time where we're kind of like, okay, things are going pretty damn quick. But the point is, it was the same thing, except it was more in a physical sense versus the digital realm, where it's like, oh, I need some shirts done. Who did those shirts for X event that I'm at? For this run or this school or, whatever. And, next thing, it's like, oh, well, so-and-so called me, and we're like, oh yeah, that was a referral from so-and-so. That was a referral from so-and-so. That was a referral from so-and-so who, I went to school with. So it's like, we're 6 times deep on these referrals. It's kind of like the 6 degrees of IQ Inc., I guess we'll call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's true. On your point where like it all kind of happened serendipitously, like one thing, I think that in every major change that I've made in my life, when I was moving, things like that, once you put it out there, we can, I have no problem saying I believe that there is something else greater than human beings.
Right.
Some say aliens, some say Buddha. I don't know. But it presents itself to you.
I'm not saying
when
it's
aliens.
Right.
But no, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
It presents itself to you when it's right, know? And so each step came in. It was like, okay, another. Oh. And so the path just starts.
Yeah, I'm not a huge outward proponent of it, but like manifest destiny and just kind of willing things. I do believe it because there's a million different ways you can word it, but that whole, if you put your mind to it, you make it happen. Like you decided you want to have a podcast. You're on episode we don't know yet. 34, 30-ish.
30-something like my age.
34. I wish.
I
give my right arm to be 30.
I wanted to be a business owner. I bounced around, and I to your earlier point, I was way more apprehensive, and because I just, as far as starting and pulling the trigger on it, because I needed that safety net. I mean, I didn't get started as early as Jeff with, building a family and stuff like that, but as far as my parents were concerned, when I had my first son at 27, that was still kind of early. Like I was still living at home, like living the dream, like, hey, I'm in the basement, if you need me, come find me. But then it's like, next thing I'm buying a house, I'm getting married, all that stuff. I always wanted that safety net. So, 10 years ago, and after dabbling in different things, 10 years ago, I finally did the numbers, and I'm like, this is the business to be in. It's what makes sense for me, and I can figure it out. And I had a friend that was in the business that was going to help me, but I still didn't at that point, I'm 35 years old with 3 kids. I'm not going to just be like, all right, I'm out, drop this, So I did it. I started it in my garage, and I built it up, and then like I said, the opportunity came up. That was just fantastic timing. Everything that went on with that, and then it became my wife's full-time job because she had been let go, had an opportunity to go back to school, and then took this thing over. And it replaced the job she didn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
She's very talented. She could have got into a multitude of things, but this was a perfect fit. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where, I leave and I'm full time at the at our own business, I think more than anything, I just become less and less involved, and then I just do, my thing, because I do work for a great company, a best company I've ever worked for.
Yep.
So I'm okay with that. Like, that's really what I'm trying to do, is kind of for me to get less split time, and for me to just, not that my job is my job and I do it.
But the company's standing on its own now.
Yeah, exactly. Company has its president, and that's all in the corporation paperwork, because I knew I didn't have the time for it. My wife is the president and 50% owner of the business. I'm a treasurer.
Well, not a bad role to have.
Yeah.
But they say, when you prepare yourself to start your own business, they always say, start it first, and then when it can replace your other income, then you can jump. I did not do that because I wanted to honor my former employer. I did not want to have any muddy waters.
Right.
I wanted to do the right thing. So it was extra scary
Yeah.
to be like, okay, I've gotten some great feedback, but feedback doesn't pay the rent. So are they gonna put their money where their mouths were? Luckily, I got back what I give, and I have beautiful relationships, but I didn't get to prove that. I didn't get to do prove the concept.
Yeah.
While I was still employed, because I wanted it to be a very separate thing.
And you have a potential for conflict of interest and everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I am not trying to get sued,
Yeah. I was comfortable. I mean, I worked, when I started the business, I worked for a sporting goods retailer, a now defunct sporting goods retailer. I knew without a doubt that me printing shirts for other people for their 5Ks and businesses was not going to conflict with what was happening at a sporting goods retailer. And then I progressed into banking, and I knew without a doubt that banking did not interfere with printing T-shirts for people. And then, once I became a FINRA licensed individual, I do have to report that I am a non-contributing, board member or officer. And I help my wife out non-compensated with the business, but she's kind of taking that over.
I mean, even when I did the podcast, I had to call my HR department because I remember calling you. I'm like, hey, I want to start this, and I had to call HR. I know it's a scary phone call at first, because you're like, hey, this is what I want to do, because what if they tell me I can't, because I really want to do something like this. But they were really supportive and kind of gave me the parameters of what I shouldn't talk about and stuff like that. And
if we ever, that's why we won't hear anything talk about anything financial related here. I can't.
Yep.
And also, if it ever became monetized in any way, I would have to. I have to, like, 6 months in advance, have to talk about that. So I'm cool.
Well, we're not making any money. I'll tell you that right now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm cool with showing up and just drinking a bottle of wine. This is actually, I'm in the red right now, literally.
But should I ever work for another employer again? I think now I will lead with, I have my own business, and it's very important to me. As long as I come in upfront about it, can both coexist.
Sure. Yeah. You want to make sure you go in there with the integrity, because you had integrity all the time.
I'm too scared to be.
Yeah.
I'm
You
a
always say
baby.
that.
I'm just like, I don't like conflict. I don't want to get that call, and then I'm an awful liar too. So there just was no point for me.
Right.
So now you have to come up front and say, this is what I want to continue doing.
Yeah.
Can that be an asset for your company? I think so. But
yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably two finite outcomes to it. It's just like, great, we've been looking for someone like you, or it's like, we feel that either that's going to draw away from what your responsibilities might be here, or it might be a conflict, and then you're just like, well, then I know that you're not the place for me, and thanks for making that decision for me.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it even easier for you to kind of pick and choose, if you end up going that direction, what you might do.
Well, plus two, I think the podcast helps me out in the field. Like, especially today, I had a really big tour today, and I think I did really well. And it was having conversations like this, asking discovery questions, kind of really got me a little more comfortable. So this was the first big visit I've had in a long time where I didn't sweat it at all. I was up early though. I was up at 3:00 in the morning, but my insomnia, why is
you're always up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, usually 1 or 2 o'clock. Yesterday I must have slept
Like,
late.
ooh, I
you know what I
slept
mean? And that's with sleeping medication.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So
I
it's-
woke up in the middle of the night last night. The previous night I woke up at 4 a.m. and I was up till 6, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just ride out the day. I'll just get up now. But I didn't. I did fall back asleep. But usually it starts a pattern. So last night I woke up. The first wake up, it was only 10 o'clock. I was like, oh, crap.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. Well, I fall asleep early.
But even
If you put me in front of a TV,
but
it's
even
like
if you
it's
fall
over.
asleep early, like 10
yeah,
p.m.
it's like 6 o'clock. Are we talking?
I fall asleep at like 8:30. And then I woke up at 10 thinking it was 4 a.m.
Oh my God, that's
It
the
wasn't.
worst.
Right. Then I woke up again and I am blind as a bat. So I had to I try not to check my phone because then it's all over, the blue
Yeah.
light. So I grab my glasses and I try to look at my clock across the room. It's 12:45. I'm like, oh crap. Like I'm going to be up for hours now and
Preach,
still
preach.
have to fall asleep
So what
and
do you-
maybe risk another wake up. Like I can't.
So what? I mean, I know you have like sleep apnea and stuff like that.
Yep.
So what do you contribute? Like your
Anxiety.
Yeah?
My brain never shuts off. And so
That's fine.
I'll wake up, I'll dream about something, and then I'll wake up and I'll think about how that's real
Yeah.
or like how different factors. I dream about very realistic things. Like I'll dream about a client and then I'll be like, oh no.
Yep.
So my wife's it's crazy because my wife's the same way. Like, she'll wake up and, like, oh, was I dreaming, whatever. And they're very real. And there's like, daily interaction type stuff. And I think it's just a kind of that daily anxiety. I know I dream because every human dreams. I cannot tell you the last time that I've remembered a dream. Like I don't wake up during those things. And my brain don't stop, doesn't stop. And I get up at, between 6 and 6:30 and usually go to bed like 11:30 to midnight. And I don't know if it's that span of time that is the reason why I sleep like a rock from like within 5 minutes when I put my head down to at least 6. Even if I don't plan on waking up till 7 a.m., 6 is usually like when I'll at least get the first like, and I'll kind of judge what time it is, make sure I didn't miss anything, peek at the clock like you talked about, like, okay, I didn't miss
See
my
if there's
alarm.
any sun coming through the blinds.
Did-
You're like,
Now it's messing me
Damn
up.
it.
Now that
Yeah,
it's darker longer, I'm like, I don't know
know.
what time it is.
Make sure I didn't forget to set my alarm.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I'm good. All right, and then I'll go back to sleep. But I don't I don't know what happens, and nothing wakes me up.
I'm impressed that you can stay awake till midnight. I purposely wake up at 6:45 every morning because I need like 2 hours of quiet. Ben sleeps later, but he stays up later. So he gets his alone quiet time at night, but I need to wake up, and that will as long as I do certainly, I'll sit and I'll try to stretch because I'm old. I got a bad back at 30 years old. It's pathetic.
Well,
You got to
it's talking-
stretch.
she just
I
looked at
know.
me
Yeah.
and she goes old and she goes,
Yeah, we're both like, you're 46,
that's it. We're
45,
done.
you just said.
47, right?
48.
48.
Did you just say you're
Yeah.
35?
No, 40.
Oh.
I'm what year is this? I'm 46, like in like 2 weeks.
I just said my back
Oh,
hurts
sorry.
at 30.
No,
I thought
I'm-
that was pathetic.
No, I'm 46 within the week. All right,
So, anywho,
So we have to have a birthday bash too.
next week, let's do it.
so I wake up early on purpose because I need that time to kind of recenter. So imagine what I would be like should I not have that time in the morning. I'd be a nightmare.
Oh, see, I don't know. I don't know. I don't talk to anybody else that's like me. So I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, I don't know if I'm a freak or if I just kind of. So today, and so I work from home. I have worked from home since COVID. I did go into an office, a few days a week and work from home, a couple days a week prior. But this morning, I woke up at 10 of 6. And I got out of bed at 5 of 6, and I walked down my hallway, logged onto my computer, and got to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know if my eyes were open. And I do kind of like compliance review. I monitor kind of what's going on, with, within the financial realm, and it's a lot of like data. And before the coffee is even done, I'm in it, and like it's like the Matrix for me. Like I'm like zeros and ones, and I'm like, and that's what I do. And then so today it was a little different. Wednesdays, my kid goes to rock climbing, which is why I log on early. So I log off at like 2, go pick him up at school, go to rock climbing, watch him climb rocks, fake rocks for 2 hours. And then I'm here. Mm-hmm. I'll drink a bottle of wine, probably go home. I'll drink another bottle of wine maybe. And that's when my brain finally like veggies out, and I'll spend an hour to maybe 2 watching like mindless TV. So it's
TikToks.
No. I
don't even watch TV anymore.
I purposely will.
I love TV.
I used to love TV. Ever since COVID. Well, I can't even say that before COVID, but COVID.
Were you watching like news, and like were you getting bombarded with like the negativity, or were you just watching things that like are entertainment? So there's a big difference.
So I would say about 3 years ago, I became very political, and maybe a little bit, maybe 4 years
your first
ago.
problem.
Well, it was a problem because
yes or no, depending on your beliefs. I don't want to shame anybody.
No. We don't do that on the podcast, but it was something that sparked my attention, and then I became instantly obsessed. Mostly because I felt like a sucker. Okay, and then I'm like, and I hate feeling like that, so I wanted to drill down that feelings. Like, why am I feeling that way? And then it was an endless abyss for a while where all I was doing was political stuff.
So you're obsessed.
Yeah.
And the digital world knew it, so they fed you.
Fed you more
fed you more of it.
Yeah. And so I'm a kind of person where I see something, I follow it. And
the wormhole.
Sometimes it brought me some very dark places.
That's why I don't follow anything on.
And the thing with me too is, so I'm an independent, but I want to follow both sides. I think it'd be easier if I was like one way or the other, so I could think that way.
Right.
It's really difficult to be down the center and try to soak in both sides and make some.
Can I give you some advice?
Yeah.
Believe what you believe, and don't follow either side.
Why? So I don't.
Well, you said you're an independent,
right?
But you let what you're seeing come from both sides inflame you, right?
Well, on certain things,
what if you just like went through your daily life talking to people and just like stop paying attention to like what is being fed to you? So
now you don't even get that reprieve because everybody wants to talk.
I know. So I don't look for it that way anymore. Like I don't let that.
So you're not seeking it.
No. So now I'm very
because that's when it gets real bad. Is when you, especially if you start searching for it, and we touched on the marketing side of, cookies.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, accept. Yeah, I just want to read your content. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came time for the lockdown, that's when I had a little bit of a meltdown.
That's when I turned everything off.
I never had that problem before, man. I was the kind of person where I could solve something in 10 seconds flat and very good at it. But I couldn't solve that, right? But then it became, all this other stuff around me. Like my mother was now alone. My father had passed. I had to take care of her. Then I have my son's mother I take care of. She's disabled. Then I have my wife who's disabled. So Jeff became...
Oh, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And I almost couldn't handle that at first. And that's where I think my insomnia kicked in, where
So I'm sorry for interrupting, but so prior to that,
sleep like a log.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I misunderstood. I know we've talked about your insomnia. So, but go ahead.
I sleep with a CPAP machine.
I knew that,
and that thing is whoever needs that and doesn't sleep with it, you are asking for trouble. And
my fiance's on one now too.
Oh,
it changed. I can sleep myself. I couldn't sleep. I already am a light sleeper, and then I'm having,
Yeah, it's brutal.
But he feels so much better.
Yep.
He hates it, and I sometimes feel like I'm like kissing goodbye a coma patient. Like in the morning, I'm always like, "Goodbye, I'm going to the gym."
I try to breathe. I try to tell her I love her. I love you. And then, if you don't breathe right, then you start hyperventilating, and then you got to rip the mask off.
Yes.
I can't hear you through the mask.
I will tell you this though: the best story ever was when I had to go get fitted for my CPAP machine. So they put you in a room for like 5 or 6 other people, right? And they try to do it all in one shot. Well, each person, they try to start everybody off with the nose CPAP, the nose pillows first, right? Well, the problem with that is if you don't breathe, you don't close your mouth, you open up your mouth, now you create a negative airway, right? Mm-hmm. And you suffocate.
Oh, Jesus.
because it's just going out, and you're trying to control that. And so the lady across from me,
Yeah, because your throat kind of self-regulates.
yeah.
My son and I were just talking about this earlier today.
So all of a sudden, she grabs the chair and freaks out. Like, when I mean freak out, I mean I thought she was gonna have a heart attack, and the woman's telling her, "Close your mouth, it's fine, just breathe, just breathe." So I already had a friend that had a CPAP machine, gave me the deal. So I sat there, I'm like, okay, because it's very intense at first, even at the low setting, it's so intense, and she freaked out. So I got home, I started using my CPAP, and then it just became too much. So I would open up my mouth at night. I had a chin strap. Like, I started having so much gear. It was embarrassing. So I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. Well, then progressively, as I gained more weight and I became a fatty bumble laddie, I'm on a diet now, so I'm good.
You eat 7 pounds as of Monday, right?
Yep.
You're down,
Yep.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. I lose it fairly quickly, but I also gain it just as fast if I don't pay attention.
It's when we talked about this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't lose fat. You
Right.
just shrink it.
Yeah.
So it comes back quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I thought you pee it out. I always wondered where it went. I'm like, where is it
No,
going?
it doesn't go anywhere. So and we're going to go way off subject here
Yeah.
just for a second. But so your the amount of fat cells that the human body carries is determined in adolescence. So so depending on what your nutritional and activity things look like in adolescence, if you're a fat kid, you're gonna struggle way more throughout adulthood, because the amount. So once you reach a certain point, and I don't know that answer offhand, but then all that changes is the size of the fat cells. So once the amount or the volume of fat cells is determined, all that's determined afterwards is the size of them, unless you get them physically removed. So
Freeze them off.
So I was about a year and a half ago, I was 295 pounds, and I went and got help, and I've lost a bunch of weight, but I still have the same amount of fat cells. So I'm like, and that's why people, who lose a ton of weight can gain it back almost
Overnight,
literally. Not overnight's an exaggeration, but probably within 20% of the time as it takes to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the amount of fat cells doesn't go away, they just shrink in volume, and they so like peeing it out, burning it off.
I always wondered, and then someone told me recently, it's like, yeah, you pee it out. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, it's a store of energy, and so when you are growing, especially in adolescence, that's when you're in full development mode,
Did
right?
genetics play into this?
They
I would
may.
imagine, yeah. At
I think so.
At some level.
Genetics plays into because
Yeah.
you're genetically predisposed for a whole bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens in those development years, because if your body, the brilliant machine that it is determines that you're trying to stockpile energy stores for some reason, in the evolutionary mind, it's like, oh shit, we better hold on to this, and we're going to create all these extra fat cells, and then it's
You can create extra fat cells.
well, that's
Now?
no,
Oh,
in
my
adolescence,
God.
that no
God.
in development mode, and I actually
She goes, I'm screwed.
I can't say for certain. I just know what I've watched about kind of weight gain and like childhood obesity,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to like make sure my kids didn't end up as fat as I was. So I guess I'm kind of extra educated in that point. So I will not say definitively if adults can add on fat cells. I know without a doubt they can increase the size of their existing fat cells wherever that's been. But in retrospect, or introspect, however you want to call it, that's probably why there's those people where it's like they can eat anything and really not look like they gain weight. Like my brother, he never fluctuates more than like 20 pounds. He's 54, 55 years old now. But he was always skinny as a rail.
But my question is, did you have the same upbringing? What caused one to be so drastic in comparison to the other?
He's super. We're very, very, very different personalities. Very different people. He was super hyperactive. Very, active. Yeah, well, that's what you expect from someone hyperactive. Diagnosed with ADHD or whatever they called it, back then. My parents did not believe in, medication or anything like that. He never stops. Even at 54 years old, he does not stop. Like, he goes from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., and he goes way harder than any of us. Guarantees. He works in, like the construction industry and building industry, and even when he gets home, he has like home projects and side jobs and stuff. Like, he doesn't stop, and then he just passes out.
Yeah.
He probably sleeps like a baby.
That's what I need
yeah.
to start doing.
Yeah.
And I try to do that though. I try to go as far as I can, but I can't make it past like 9, 10 o'clock.
I'm already yawning. I'm at my bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm up at 5:30, 5:45, and
I mean, I should get a part-time job where it's available from like 1 till like 5. I'd be really good at that time, and I take trazodone to go to sleep too.
Jeez.
And
melatonin.
Melatonin is baby stuff. I can wake.
My
that
body
does
laughs
not
at
help me.
melatonin.
Same.
Well,
same.
It laughs, but as a on a continuous basis, excuse me, could prove beneficial. Ashwagandha.
So I take.
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha.
Isn't that what they're calling the new glizzy? The glizzy pill.
I don't. Well,
I think
maybe
so.
I don't know. It was a hot. Ashwagandha was like a hot, trendy thing to do, but it's an adaptogen, so it kind of like figures out your body. As far as
adaptogen,
I know this.
Adaptogen and another term for it. There's another term for it, but
So you take it and it kind of helps your body adapt to stress and things like that. I actually have a bottle of a thing with ashwagandha in it. And it does help when I take it, but I always forget to take it. So.
Actually,
well, I do have.
Is it Goji who just launched a whole bunch of?
Yep.
So I have that.
Nootropics is the other term
nootropics.
I was looking for.
The brain stuff.
How'd you pronounce it?
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha, yeah.
Ashwagandha. So I think you had it correct. It's also considered a nootropic, which I think falls into the what'd you call it?
An adaptogen.
Adaptogen.
Yeah.
I don't take it regularly. We order the gummies. We get them delivered through Prime. Thank you, Bezos. And I honestly, I kind of feel chill. Pop a couple gummies.
It lowers your cortisol.
Yeah. Okay, and that's a huge benefit for
so I do
fat burning and weight control. Yeah,
I do take a sleepy time gummy. I got it.
CBD.
No,
also
so I got it at CVS. So I'll show you when we leave. But it has a whole bunch of stuff in there. It has chamomile. It has melatonin, and it has like 3 milligrams of melatonin.
Magnesium is very helpful for sleep. That's more effective for me than.
So I'll
melatonin.
show you. I have a bottle
magnesium deficiency in general is like a huge problem. Digestive issues, a lot of like big problems that people have, and they don't realize they have a magnesium deficiency.
Yeah. So I have a bottle of magnesium over there that I started taking, and there's like 5 or 6 like kinds of magnesium. It's kind of like the overall. And I will tell you that for a number of years when I would like work outside or go do something physical, I was good until I stopped. And then my body would just like, and then God forbid I sit down, right? But I will tell you, since I've been taking that, it has been, so my chiropractor, who's a family friend of ours, he's like, you should be taking some magnesium. And I think you're magnesium deficient. Most people are.
Mm-hmm.
So, he goes, your vitamin that you take, your multivitamin, that's nowhere near enough. So take another supplement on top of it. And I will tell you that I think I'm starting to get a little bit better sleep. I actually fell asleep and slept the whole night without any sleeping pills the other night. I do better. So I think a lot of it's like work related too, because I sleep better on Friday and Saturday night than I do on Monday through Thursday. Especially when I know I have something like, I knew I had this thing today, so I tossed and turned for a little while. My mind was going on scenarios. And, but one of the things on this new sleeping pill, it says there's something in there that helps shut the voices off in your head. I'll have to see what
Oh,
that
it says that on the prescription bottle?
I swear to God, I'll show you.
Oh, weed does that.
Yeah,
well, it's just different voices.
No, but it does. It says on the package
It
that
quiets your mind or
yeah,
something.
quiets your mind. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say. But it does say shut the voices off in your head.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you.
No.
I swear on my mother. I swear on my mother. I'll show you.
This is over-the-counter shit.
This is right at CVS.
Okay,
Over-
so it's not a
over-the-counter.
prescription
Not a
on the.
Oh, I
on
never
the
said it was a prescription.
Oh,
You
okay.
did for a second, yeah.
I thought it was like on the
Over-the-counter.
orange
Yeah.
bottle. It's like,
Yeah, like, do
quiets the voices.
Yeah.
I'm like, which
Dude,
doctor?
It's not like
Do not
Paxil
operate
or
heavy
anything.
Do not operate heavy machinery. Quiets the voices. Like, well, if it quiets
It's
the
actually
voices,
Xanax.
You will
Yeah.
sit there and just drool.
yeah.
But no, I started on Sunday went to go help my buddy close his campground down. Now typically after that, I'd be in the hot tub, Advil, and then I felt great. I was a little sore that night, but woke up the next morning ready to rock and roll.
That's great.
And that's something typically that I wouldn't be able to do. It'd take me a while to kind of, not be the old Tin Man again. But yeah.
That means you got to do more of that. We got to start shutting down campgrounds on a daily basis.
Well, one thing I miss about the campground is that, especially when we had our site for a little while,
You're doing walks and stuff.
we
right?
were walking almost
You got
every
a
night.
neighborhood, go for a walk.
I don't,
man.
I don't like walking around the neighborhood. It doesn't.
That turn is going to kill someone.
It hasn't yet.
So drive somewhere and take a walk.
Well, that's probably
The
a good
minute
idea.
you have to drive to take a walk, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My old apartment was right near the Charles. I would go because I just loved the walk, so I would go all the time, throw in some earbuds, do it. Now where I live, it's just not pretty,
Yeah.
and I'm walking on just like ugly streets. I don't want to say my neighbors' houses are ugly, but it's just like house after house after house. I live in a city suburb. It's just not pretty. Do
Yeah.
I want to go out and take this walk anymore? No, I don't. No one wants to come over and go for that walk either because
Right.
it's not pretty.
I live 10 houses and one street crossing from a Planet Fitness, and I've had a membership for 2 years, and I just canceled it, and they never went.
I
All right.
I
That's
joined at the
their
end of the year.
point.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's the amount of members that don't go to Planet Fitness. Like if everybody who was a member
Yeah, you
went,
never get in.
you never get in,
And the memberships will go up.
Yeah.
and the shit would be beat because everybody using it. Like they bank on people
Yeah,
not
yeah.
using it. But the point is yes, it's work. It's hard, but like you have a choice of what's hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can either, be unhealthy and parts of that is easy, but then it gets hard.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can choose not to be unhealthy, and that's freaking really hard too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really hard, especially if you start off on one part of the scale and then work your way to the other, and then still maintaining it is a lot more work. So it's really just it's back on that punch list of priorities, and I feel like I'm kind of like shaming you, because I'm preaching, but if you make it one of those priorities, going for that shitty drive to go for the walk isn't going to be that bad.
You got to find something you like.
And find
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, that's exactly
Well, you know what it is? I have the exercise bike upstairs. I just bought a new tray that goes on the top so I can edit the podcast as I'm doing because I can't. I just can't ride the bike, right? And I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, no.
I don't want to listen to something, but I remember when I first
I have
got
a
the bike.
treadmill that's never been turned on, so don't feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when I first got the bike? I put the picture on Facebook and I was editing the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that again. That's going to kind of be my thing, and I think I can go longer.
Do not work on that bike.
Oh, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. This is
We'll see.
podcast related.
We'll see.
Well, then the other thing was too. I was watching the nightly news.
Well, if you start monetizing the podcast, or if you get to the point where you're monetizing the podcast, you can claim the bike as a business expense. So
It's true. I can use it as
that's your office space.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, it's your corporate office.
It's true.
after the first of the year. I am definitely going to talk to my financial advisor about how I can not so much monetize this, but I want to get to a point where I can write some of this stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of equipment, I've never been able to write off yet.
No, you can.
Well, I have to show, so according to my accountant, I have to show some kind of income, even if it's at a small level, so I can export T-shirts. Well, that's what we got to, If that
You got to
my wife
start
would ever send
marketing
you
it
the
so you
link.
get more listeners, and then people will want to have advertising spots.
Right.
I mean, I act like I'm like a professional. That's like 101, but
Yeah.
from my professional opinion.
For me too, I think I have a friend of mine that was doing a podcast, Mike. You know, he did like 50 something of them, and then he's taking a break. So I was kind of sad to see that. I hope he does come back up, and because it's a lot of work. You know, like a lot of people don't realize that when I'm done with this, for every hour that we do this, I have an hour and a half's worth of editing to do. You know, because it's hard to take notes to go back and look at stuff. You know?
Right.
So you almost have to go from the beginning to the end.
You just watch it
and just watch it all over again, and then fix everything, and then you have to. Of course, nothing goes right. Every single time I edit a podcast, you move the sound just a little bit, and then people start talking, and the sound comes afterwards, and then you have to scoot it back over. I liked DaVinci when I had DaVinci, but then DaVinci was we were blessed. We got
DaVinci is a
editing software.
Okay.
We got a special code one day to upgrade to DaVinci 17 for free. When we did that, it literally crashed my computer.
Oh.
I had to take my computer to a computer guy and have him extract all that stuff out, reset my computer, and I had all my podcasts on there. Thank God we were able to save them all. So now we did the right thing. We got another hard drive. We threw them all on there, but it's always like these different things that come up. But, you know, I guess it just makes you better for the next time, you know.
When you said the thing about I have to edit the voices, you know, even the TV people don't get that right.
Right.
You know, the music will be so loud you have to turn it down. Then the voices will start and you got to turn it up. And then a commercial will come on and you're like, wow, you got to turn it down.
Yeah,
but then
we ever noticed
back on, you're like, what is that?
The commercials
You're
are
a
always higher.
communications major. That's all
Well, the
intentional.
commercials are on purpose.
That's
but
intentional.
Yeah, the commercials are on purpose, but even in the television, they can't seem to get the levels right.
Right.
At least
I'm
the
always
voice.
like,
you know the music is for the hype,
Right.
but the voices are still all over the place. Like,
Right.
yeah, I can understand like you're whispering, but at least have it whispering like at a reasonable variable.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this is normal conversation, this is whispering, you know?
And boom.
Do what they used to do on like 90s sitcoms. They just go 2 feet away from the group
Yeah.
and have the full conversation as if it's a secret.
Well, I remember when we first started the podcast, I was using Audacity, and I didn't know how Audacity worked. And so the guy that taught me Audacity, he was just a single podcast guy, so it was perfect for him. But Audacity really doesn't work when there's more than one person because it filters down to one mic. So I was driving myself bananas trying to figure out how to
Make
do all
everybody
this.
sound. Yeah.
And then I saw a guy with this Podcaster Pro on YouTube. So I messaged him. I'm like, hey, I'm just starting out. I can't get my audio right. So he was actually a really nice guy. He actually told me to send me my cell number. He called me like literally right away. And he's like, let me walk you through the Podcaster Pro.
That's amazing.
And I've actually reached out to a few podcasters, and they have responded right back saying, this is what I did.
Because everybody's in the fight together, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, so that's actually a great point. So you're starting your own business, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a cool example, but I want to hear from you. When you were, so as you were kind of making those decisions, I know you've probably done some work study where it's like, okay, what are other people doing?
Mm-hmm.
Did you reach out to other people? Did you know them? Did you not? And then since then, have people reached out to you? Kind of talk about that dynamic, because I have a minuscule example, but.
So I did do a little bit of research, organic research too, just asking around and finding out. Also went on social media. I want to see how other people who are doing the business side of beauty, what are they doing?
Right.
I didn't reach out. However, because sometimes you always have to worry, are they going to think I'm copying them or what have you? I personally think that there's enough sun for everybody. Like I can only probably handle 10 accounts, and they're going to work with me because they love me. If you want to do this as well, there are going to be people that only want to work with you, and that's okay.
Right.
It's probably regional.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I mean, technically, I really could do anything
in the digital
throughout
realm.
Yeah.
So what
But-
I do is regional,
Right.
unless you get big. But
I think everybody, you could learn from something. So then I also have, she was an acquaintance from my friends from college, but we had stayed together stayed up to date with each other via social media. And she also worked for a corporate beauty company, and they did layoffs. And I said to her, can we get together for lunch? Like, I want to learn, because then as I learn, she's now doing her own thing, and she's doing marketing on her own as well. it did cross my mind because I wasn't public about mine yet. I'm like, she's going to think I'm copying her. But we got together and we had drinks and we chatted and it was very much both like, we should do this every month because we could really learn from each other. And the way that you word things, the way that I word things, you can take little pieces of it.
Yep.
You just have to find people that have the same mindset as you because there are people who view it as a competition and they're not my people. Like, I just want to be better. I want to keep learning and I want to chat about it. I never, you know this, nothing's a secret for me, unfortunately. I don't take myself seriously enough to think that like I have to keep anything a secret. So I just have never felt that. It's just, I want to learn from you. I'm cool with saying that, you know?
And I think that like that think tank environment, you know, there's really nobody, if you go into it with the right mindset, there's nobody that can't benefit from it as long as you don't view it as a competition versus, you know, a collaboration.
Right.
And like I experienced that. I follow, because I am also in the screen printing realm and, you know, in apparel customization realm, it's what shows up for me in social media. You know, everybody knows it happens. You know, everybody's listening, and I'll follow some screen printers, you know, whoever using relative hashtags and whatnot. And there's one that really caught my eye from Buffalo, New York. So I started following them, and I follow and unfollow, you know, based on different recommendations and whether or not I like the content, which is the importance of that type of marketing. And I'm like, I dig everything they do. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I envy about them because they kind of, you know, they have a retail aspect plus, you know, a contract aspect. We're strictly just contract because they have the, you know, the creativity on the retail aspect. But they started carrying you know, a certain piece of equipment that I'd been researching, and I've researched every single thing. And like, this is like the one that was like top of my list. And then I saw them using it, and I kind of already idolized what they were doing. So I was just reached out. I'm like, hey man, you know, I noticed that you're using, you know, this equipment. I'm on the edge, huge investment. Give me some feedback, you know. And I bullet pointed. Let me tell me about this, and this. Like, you know, I already knew what I had read. I wanted to hear like real world, and I'm like, hope you don't mind. And this guy was fantastic. I felt like, you know, it was like I was talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, guys like, oh my God, yeah. He's like, I you know, I love this. Let me tell you this, and this. He's like, I've been in the business this many years. You know, I love sharing everything. You know, I'm all about like what goes into this, and what the result is. Taking care of the customers. He's, you know, and never, you never know where it's going to be. I mean, I'm his competition. Am I ever gonna grab business out of Buffalo, New York? Probably not. I'm not even marketing myself on any paid scale in Western Mass, never mind Buffalo, New York, you know. And most screen printers, embroiderers aren't. It's a very local business, and the promotional market is like a $20 billion market, you know, across the whole scale.
Yeah.
Not even counting, I think, like social media marketing. I'm talking like print. I'm talking like pens and pencils to T-shirts and hats. It's like a $20 billion market.
Yeah.
And imagine if you were all enemies. That'd be tough.
Exactly. You know, like, but I was still apprehensive because prior to that, I hadn't really reached out to anybody, you know, in the small business market. I've always been big business, big retail, big box retail. And it was like, yeah, you might share something with a store manager from an opposing retailer, but, you know, nobody needed to know about it.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, yeah, man. He's like, you want to know anything? And I couldn't believe it. You know, I was humbled by it. And it kind of like changed my perspective around business because everything I'd seen prior to that was that big business mindset. And it helped me in a couple other ways, but like I couldn't believe it because like this guy, you know, I considered him a very successful business person, you know, based on everything I saw, and of course everything, you know, is an illusion.
It's a
on
highlight
social media.
reel.
Exactly. You know, but it was you know, it was powerful. So and that's why I asked the question, because
in talking, it reminded me actually when I did follow someone who is a salon coach, which is a little different than what I do. However, I wanted to just kind of learn. And she wrote a book. She self-published a book. Maybe not self-published, but she wrote a little book, a workbook that was meant for her ideal client, people that need a coach to set up business systems and things like that. And I bought her book and I read it, and I wanted to know, what kind of information is valuable, and it was very helpful. So I liked it, and also, like, circling back to what I was saying, that like engaging with people's marketing and content will help boost them. I'm always liking everybody else's stuff because, like, it's double click, doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I bought her book and I read it, and I mean, I threw her a couple dollars, but it was just good I wanted to know what other people are offering, what is important, and how can I be a little bit different, because I don't want to follow in anybody else's footsteps.
Right,
I kind of want to do
footprint.
my own.
Yeah.
So I've bought actually a lot of self-published books. I'm like, oh, it's on Amazon, $12, sure. But cool. Maybe I'll self-publish a book. I don't know.
Well, speaking of self-published books.
My friend Joe's book. Have we already talked about it, or am I just going to do a plug for him?
So we usually do a plug every
So
podcast.
he's been
at the
here
end.
twice, and
Yeah.
that is there all the time. That's right.
Should we call him right now?
Go for it, dude.
Want to see if he'll answer?
You're gonna have to resync and everything.
No, I think I'm good. I just have to.
That's right. So that's right, because that's how you know Joe, right? You guys both know Joe. Okay. I only know him through the podcast, so for me, it's like
he's good people. Good people. I mean, you got to do it. I think it's great. I really am just all about, like, if you want to do something to make $1, like, do it. I know network marketing is like a big hot thing now. If anybody watched the Lula Rich documentary, probably neither of you, but it's on Amazon, and it's about this network marketing company that sold leggings, and they scaled too quickly and their production suffered.
Oh, LuLaRoe. Well,
yes, LuLaRoe. Correct.
My niece was
sold it.
She went on a free cruise.
See, okay, yes. So it's a big topic.
Free.
Right.
Cruise.
And but people spend a lot of time, like,
Hey, Jeff.
on it.
Hey, Joe, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much.
You are
Living the
on.
dream. What's
You
up?
were on the You Can't Handle the Flu podcast
With me.
with Bethany Singleton.
Oh my goodness, Bethany!
Hi.
Hi.
You're talking about your book.
Yep.
And me.
And we can't forget about Brett. I can't believe we just forgot about Brett. God damn.
No, you guys, you have your thing. I only met Joe once, so it's fine.
It's okay. So we were talking about, Bethany, has started her own business. And so I don't know if you still know this, Joe, but your book stands very proudly on our podcast table right next to us during the whole podcast. And we've been plugging the book every single podcast, I think, since you've been on. Right?
Yeah, so
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
yeah, so we're waiting on that check.
Yeah.
This is how you monetize.
For that one book sale that you got from the podcast viewers.
So I want you to sneak me into the next book. Like, I want to be like in the corner of the page,
He wants a full illustration of himself.
Humbly illustrated.
So we were calling to ask you, how you doing with the next book? How far along are you?
Oh, it's written,
Nice.
completely written, and I've sent it I've sent the pages to the illustrator, but I have to wait and come up with the funding to pay the illustrator to illustrate.
Fair.
So if somebody was to help out with that, how would they donate some money to help you do that?
I don't have anything set up, so I guess they could Venmo me and write in the note that that's what it's for, and I would stick it in a different bank account. And my Venmo is Joe Ammo, A-M-O. So J-O-E-A-M-O.
Nice. And on the topic, which brought up your book, when you were writing your book, did you reach out to other self-published authors and kind of get their feedback?
Nope. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, you did good.
Yeah, Joe definitely covered that. Like, it was a discovery session every single minute of the way. I remember that. It was just like, I had no freaking idea, so I just figured it out. I do remember that exclusively, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I flew by the seat of my pants, and they actually took off.
Well, you did a fantastic job, and we're so proud of you. And we know that, we love you to death. So you're one of our favorite humans. We say it all the time.
So, Joe, I
I
know
love you guys too.
I know originally, for the first book, you did a pre-sale or a GoFundMe, or are you planning on doing that for the second one as well?
I mean, I could. I definitely could. I wasn't planning on doing that. I was hoping to just be like, now that I'm established, here is book 2. But I might have to do like an Indiegogo or Kickstarter or something. I'm gonna definitely go with one of those because that's for like material goods and like things that you create versus trying the GoFundMe route because it worked, but it was just a weird way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what would be good, Joe, too? I just had a thought pop into my head. So when the next book comes out, of course, you're going to be coming back to the podcast to talk about your book. I would like to know if you could find somebody in the trans community that would be more than happy to come on the podcast and talk about, their struggles and where they've been and where they are now to coincide with the book. Would that be something you might want to do?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm sure I could find somebody.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
And actually,
Cool.
is that a signed copy?
Sure is.
Oh, is it a signed copy?
Sure is.
Is it
Okay.
where-
All right, because I was gonna say if not, then
Oh,
that's
he
Jeff,
did.
you're the best.
Oh.
Love you, man.
how do you not know that, Jeff? Shame.
I look at it all the time, but you know what I do?
You
I-
skipped the pictures.
No. I'm a person
yeah.
where I read from the. I honest to God, I go like this. I never read front to back sometimes when I'm looking at stuff
Oh,
like
back
this.
forward, yeah.
Yeah, I might be somewhat dyslexic or whatever.
There's no real story to it, and each page is its own individual thing.
Right.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
You can really pick up that, this particular book, you can pick it up from anywhere.
Yeah. The
Absolutely.
only finishing thing is that last page.
Let's get to the last
Let's
page.
get a reminder on
Yeah, let's get.
You're welcome.
Yep.
that.
It's awesome. All right, buddy. We just wanted to reach out and tell you that we miss you. We're thinking about you, and your book lives in infamy on our desk over here.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And I love all of y'all too. And Bethany, I'm excited that I'm going to get to watch a podcast with you on it.
And I'll give you a call tomorrow because we got a ton of stuff we have to catch up on. So you'll be hearing from me tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
Bye,
Love
Joe.
All right, bye, Joe.
All right. Bye.
you. Bye. What a sweetheart. Can't go wrong with Joe, I'm telling you, right?
Honestly, never. He's the best.
I'll tell you.
I spent 3 hours with that guy, and I love him. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I bombarded him with questions. I really did, because I wanted to understand like everything, so much better.
Yeah.
And he took it like a champ, and like was, just more than happy to like deal with my, what do you call it?
Curiosity?
Curiosity, inquisition.
Yeah.
I was going more than more curiosity.
Well, it's funny.
interrogation, I would almost call it.
The last big event we were at with him, we got to see a side of Joe that Joe was drinking a little bit. And were you downstairs with us in the main hall that night? I think you were.
Probably. I might have left because they ran out of food and we didn't have seats.
Oh,
but
remember that?
whatever.
So we were drinking with Joe, and it was just hilarious, man. He had me absolutely rolling.
He's very funny.
He is. He's just a joy to have around. So he's a dear friend of the podcast. So all right, guys, it's been an hour and 37 minutes. Bethany has to get home, and so I'm gonna turn
I
it
got
into a
pepperoni
pumpkin.
pizza waiting for
I was
me at
about
home.
What kind of pizza?
Pepperoni.
I mean, but who makes it though?
I have no idea because Ben ordered it because
All
he
right,
didn't
let's call
feed
Ben.
me.
Let's call Ben right now.
Do not. He would die. He does not.
I need to get to the bottom of this pepperoni pizza. We need to find out who this
We
is.
need to know the exact maker.
I love pizza. It is one of my favorite things. My favorite Sicilian pizza. I like the thick.
Oh, see, I like thin Neapolitan.
Ooh,
Neapolitan,
I just
New
feel
York
like it's
style.
not enough.
Yeah,
It's not enough for me.
I like it crispy.
We got a place down here. I think
I
they're
don't want the doughy. I want toppings.
Well,
I don't want the.
well, if Sicilian pizza's done right, it's the dough is not a big deal. Like it's that much more because you can put the toppings on top of it.
Yeah.
But it's the way the cheese is. They put a lot more cheese over it, and there's a place in Leominster, Papo's or Papoose.
Yep. Yeah.
He makes a killer Sicilian pizza.
Huh.
Killer.
Speaking of Leominster, have you gone to Espresso's for pizza?
No.
Very good. It's across from one of your accounts. Well, on the same street. And it's like their sauce is like kind of sweet. Very good pizza.
I like sweet sauce.
It's very good.
You're staying away from pizza.
I hope they'll pay me for this. They're really good.
Well, I can have it. I just have to count it as part of my.
Yeah.
True.
You have to eat for like not 2 days.
Yeah, true. Athens
like
is
a
good
one
food
meal
out there.
day.
Yeah.
And I think it's Dario's has good pizza too. But they're kind of like new, but that's like
And there's really no such thing as bad
yes,
pizza.
there is.
No,
Yes, there
I don't think
is.
so. I've never had a real.
Nope.
I mean, other than a burnt pizza once.
I've never had a pizza where I was just like, there's no way in hell I would eat that again. There is many instances where I was like, I would want to have pizza from these 30 other places before I have this pizza again.
Right.
But I've never said there's no way in hell I'm going to eat this pizza again.
Okay. Like
I think that's
like
I think that's a fair statement.
right.
Yeah.
Right?
Like a bad day with pizza or a day with bad pizza is better than a day with no pizza at all.
Exactly.
See,
Okay.
you got it.
And on that note, I'm going to go eat my pizza.
All right. So as always, we're gonna shoot Joe Amarino another plug on his book. It's If You Give a Gay a Grinder. Again, he's coming out with a new book. You can find this on reallygaybooks.com. You can find it on Amazon, but only I have the signed copy for me. So
Start the bidding now.
yep.
Yeah. If your name is Jeff, it's worth twice as much.
We have Bordeaux and Sons Flooring. We got Tony's Place.
TS
Mobile.
Mobile. Yep.
And Bethany.
And Beekey Beauty Consulting, www.beekeybeauty.com.
You heard it first.
Spell it out.
Yeah.
BKEY Beauty BEAUTY.com.
So letter B.
Yes, like Bethany.
Okay.
I know some people are like, "Is it Becky?" It's like, no, come on, get creative with
That's
me
the thing,
here.
You gotta be
Yeah.
so
You know,
specific.
Is it like French?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to be nitpicky.
No,
but
I think
yeah.
it's smart. I know it was a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not used to plugging myself yet, guys, so
Well,
I
get
need the
used to
training.
it because
okay.
you're going to be back again.
Okay. Well, now can you add me to your list now when you do your?
The Collins?
No, well, you could do that too.
Yeah.
When you do
when
your
you
list
rattle
of
stuff
people,
off.
you just rattle off a bunch of people.
You're automatically in there. I mean, you
Excellent.
didn't have that was an automatic. You
Yeah,
know,
I
I love
do.
you. You're like
I know.
my person.
I know.
All right, Brett, go ahead.
I'm gonna get it right this time. I'm feeling good.
We'll see. We'll see how
All
it
right,
goes.
so as always, I always like to promote my family business, IQ Inc. And embroidery. We can screen print and embroider on anything you could ever imagine, from anything from 1 to 1,000 pieces. Well, and more than 1,000 pieces technically. IQ-Inc.com, Facebook at IQ Inc. and Embroidery, Instagram at IQ.inks, I believe. And always, and more importantly, I love to promote my son's apparel business, Blue Bee Apparel, where he launches limited drops every couple months and donates 10% of all of his profits to the Honeybee Conservancy, which is an organization designated to saving the honeybees, or determined, or dedicated, actually, I should say, to saving the honeybees. Check them out at bluebeeapparel.com. And more importantly, if you want to check out some really cool TikTok videos, at Blue Bee Apparel on TikTok. And that's really my favorite part of everything he does.
Yeah.
Aside from being wicked proud of him, his TikTok videos are pretty cool.
Tearing it up. So one of the things too, like we've been changing the setup a few times now, trying to get better angles and stuff like that. I think we know what angle we had that worked out best for us. So Brett's going to come back next week. We're going to work together, fix this back. We're going to get it back to what makes more sense. So thanks for dealing with it every time you turn on the podcast.
This was a problem. I kept looking at myself the whole time.
you're not-
It's like,
you're
give
not
me a
supposed to-
mirror or like a shiny surface. I'm always like, what does my face look like when I talk?
That's why I just put it behind me. So it
I
doesn't,
try to
don't have
pretend like it doesn't exist. Like it's like,
It's like I'm Jim at the office.
what it really does is just helps us
From the office,
see what
sorry.
the angle works best. Because trying to look through that little viewfinder is next to impossible.
Yeah,
So
no,
that
thank
gives
you.
us a little bit more of a, and then hopefully I'll be on that side where you don't see any of this.
Oh my God.
So,
Too hard on yourself.
all right. Thanks for turning into another episode of You Can't Handle the Ploof. We'll see you guys again next week. And like always, please like, subscribe, and share. Share. It's the best thing you can do because it kind of almost is a small business.
yeah, even if you really don't like it, just don't like it.
Yeah, and share it.
Yeah.
It costs nothing.
Yeah, you don't have to like it to share
Yeah.
it.
We don't even like this show. So, I mean, you know what I mean?
This tangent can go on.
All right, Bethany's got to get to sleep. So
if you listen this long, you better fucking share it.
That's true.
Peace.
All right, guys. Peace.